whole time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, the whole night, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and black thing is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch detective, Steve Culls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, November 22nd, 2020. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch detective, Steve Culls, along with my co-host right down there or kind of around
I'm
there.
here. Yeah.
Mr. Chris Bennett. How are you doing, Chris?
Doing good, Steve. Man, it's getting cold around here. I think it got down in the 50s today.
That is no fair. That is Chris, that's a bitch move. And of course, up there, or even further down, and Chris,
over there, right here. Yeah, yep. This guy.
Howdy.
There's Mr. Reverend Jeff Kelley. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing fine. And for those of you, before you ask, I am actually a legally ordained minister in the Universal Life Church of California and have been since 1999. So you may indeed call me Reverend. I believe it's Reverend Captain would actually be the proper denomination since I have my captain's license as well. But, we'll just stick with Reverend for tonight. How about that?
That is so cool.
Jeff works just as fine. I mean,
Yes.
It really does.
So let's do our roll call, folks. Of course, we got B in the house.
Hi, B.
And we got Timothy. He's new. He found us. Hello, Tim. Welcome to the
Tim.
show.
Timothy McHugh.
OT is on time. He's like, woohoo, on time.
OT.
Quick Witty's back again. Hello, Quick Witty.
Welcome.
And who else we got here? So far, Rick Bell. Of course, Rick being a little sarcastic. Bigfoot isn't real. I know.
Rick.
Terry's in the house. Hello, Terry. Welcome.
Terry.
Tack. How you doing, Mikey? How you doing?
Hey, Tack.
Of course, we got Charlie Wonton on in the house.
Charlie, welcome.
And,
I like wontons.
Diane's in the house, and there's the
Welcome.
real Mr. Jimmy
Diane.
Trek. Keith in the house. Hello, Keith.
Keith.
Quick Witty said he's got some tough questions for y'all. Okay, that's what we like. We like
Yes.
stuff like that.
Tough questions are never a problem because I have tough answers.
And sometimes I have no answer at all.
Right. That's a tough answer sometimes. I don't know. Shit.
And we got Sarah. Hello, Sarah. Welcome.
Sarah.
So here we are, and
I think you missed John Swan out there, my friend.
is he? I did.
Yes,
Hello,
you
John.
did.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Welcome, John.
Hello,
Hey,
John.
man.
He's got the good old New York Yankee. Yeah.
I know what it's like to be the guy left out of the room. So, hey, John, glad you're out there.
So anyway, Reverend Jeff is the host of the Squatchers Lounge podcast and runs a Facebook group called the Squatchers Lounge. I've been there forever, just about.
Oh, God, yeah.
And so,
You know, it's funny. The Squatchers Lounge came out of the necessity of bullying.
Really?
It did. When the Coalition for Retarded Bigfoot People in the World got out of hand, we left it. We just said, screw it. I'm done with that childish crap. And we started the Squatchers Lounge, which was no drama. You start drama in the lounge and you're booted. We don't ban you. We just kick you out. So you can read it. We love people. Some people say we don't even join. We just come there to read it with our coffee in the morning. And that's great. But yeah, that literally was the reason that the Squatchers Lounge was created, was to get away from a lot of the Bigfoot bullying that used to go on.
Speaking of which, Richter and his usual.
Oh, Richter. Come on, man. Jump
Richter
the
and his
shark. Come on.
sarcasm. See, I know Richter very well, and that's just the way he busts. He rags on me too. So
Yeah, Richter tried to do one of those hit piece shows on me, and it seemed like 118 views in 3 years. So I'm not really all that concerned about how Richter feels about me. It's just been one of those things that when personalities clash, I don't give a crap anymore, and that's just one of those. So,
And, you know,
hi, Richter, long time no speak ever. Don't think about you. You have zero room in my brain for thought. But thanks for being a dick.
Jeez. Well, we love you both. So we love you
Okay, it's fine.
Neutrality is a great place to be right now.
Absolutely, you can be neutral. That's wonderful. I don't have to be.
both. Well, I don't know, and I prefer not to be gender neutral. I'm a guy. I mean,
Yeah. No, I know which bathroom to use. That's for sure.
Now there goes the neighborhood. Mr. Bachochin is in the house.
Jay.
So anyway, how in the hell did you get started in this crazy stuff?
Well,
And by the way, Mike says that the Squatchers Lounge was the first podcast he ever watched. Richter's
that's
was
awesome.
the second. Richter's was
Well, that's funny because my show actually was born of Richter's show. I'll be honest with you. The podcast, the Squatchers Lounge podcast was born of Richter's show. It was at a time that Team Taser was around, and Snow Walker Prime and all those people, Rose Hebe and Sean Orvong and Richter and myself, and before myself, Richter, they all had this coalition of shows that were going on that were supporting each other, and they were cross-membering back and forth and actually trying to build something decent in the Facebook world for some actual entertainment to go along with the Bigfoot. Yeah. A lot of them had this goal of being on TV. That was their ultimate goal. They wanted to be on TV. They wanted to be TV personalities. And they invited me to come on Richter's show, which I guess at that time, Richter, your show was scraping the bottom of the shark too, the bottom of the jumping the shark and scraping the bottom of the barrel too. But, they invited me on their show, and the voice, that's what everybody listens to. They don't really listen to my content. They listen to my voice. I could literally sit and talk about the color of bubblegum on the streets of New York City for 2 hours, and people would tune in. I can debate anybody on just about any subject, whether I'm right or not. It doesn't matter. I'll still debate it that I am right until the very end of it. But I went on Richter's show, and we talked Bigfoot, and we talked about one of my sightings in Pennsylvania when I was 16. And, I was one of the first people that actually admitted that I saw its genitals. It had balls the size of your fist swinging between its legs coming down a game trail. And, it was just something that was so disturbing. But I figured out later that it wasn't so much the balls that was disturbing me. It was the length of the legs. in the Bigfoot. Bigfoot themselves, everybody, oh, it's the arms. It's the arms. They got weirdly long arms, but they don't. They have weirdly long legs. You look at a gorilla stand up and go waddling around. You look at a chimp stand up and go walking around. You look at a billy ape who's 6 feet tall go waddling around. They've got these short ass little weird legs. But a Sasquatch, as it gets up and turns on them big hips and just starts walking away, it's got weirdly long ass legs. And that just kind of draws your attention to that portion of the body that was in there. And after the show, Ro fell in love with my voice and offered to help me start the Squatchers Lounge podcast, and then did exactly one show with me. And then became entirely too busy to do anything else for me. And I started my own channel. And from there, I basically just built my brand. First few years, it was great. You know, I had Kip Morrill was on the show. He was my first co-host. He lasted like 6 weeks before fire season broke out, and then he had to split.
Yep.
And then we brought on David Batdorf after that. And David Batdorf and I were like brothers for a long time, man. Like years we were brothers. His kid knew who I was. His wife knew who I was. We went on investigations together. And, you know, there was some weird falling out there. And I really don't even understand the whole weird falling out thing. But he'd been kind of looking for an exit for a while and blew up after Trump won the election on me and left the show. If you haven't heard the truth before, that's really what the truth is. My last text message to David Batdorf was, as though I may not have a seat at your table, you will always have a seat at mine. Yeah. Although this many years later, you can go screw yourself. Sorry, you haven't even contacted me in 4 years to say, hey, buddy, you know, I may have been a little overzealous with some of that. You know, you didn't deserve it. But no, I've gotten absolutely no contact. And with somebody like that, I don't beg to stay friends with people. No. I just don't. When things become too toxic, I have to cut it out.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a shame when politics. You know, Chris and I have had this conversation personally, and we don't really talk politics, but it's a shame when politics or even stances on certain things, like I can be, you know, people like, there's people that believe in the woo or whatever. If they want to believe what they want to believe, that they're entitled to do that. I have no harm against them, and they could have a seat at my table too.
We have quasi-theories from a quasi-scientist with Dean Cooper every single week on the Squatchers Lounge, and he talks about all that woo, fairies and dancing and, you know, the haunted room and gremlins and all kind of stuff because it's fun to talk about. Yep. And he believes a lot of that stuff. Some of those things actually happened to him. He wasn't just making some of those things up. Yep. And by no means am I one to say that didn't happen to you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not going to say that you didn't experience. I'm not even going to be the one that tells Dr. Matthew Johnson that he doesn't experience Zorth because he's got a effed up brain from an injury, and he very may well experience Zorth. It's the idiots that surround him and support him and lie to him like the Emperor's New Clothes. Going, no, Matt. Yeah, no, Zorth is definitely there. There's a portal, buddy. No problem. You just shine some light on it, shut that portal down, and we'll be just fine. Those are the people that are the actual problem. Because that becomes the cult. That becomes the sycophantic cult at that point, and then they can't be wrong. So, because if they're wrong, then they're completely wrong.
So how angry does it make you sometimes? And I'll see this conversation going along in multiple chats or multiple groups, and all of a sudden somebody from the Janu group will say, well, they're Tracheon and they're interdimensional and they can be killed, but they're dangerous. And they kind of derail the whole thing on, you know.
It's kind of the same way that my drunk Uncle Louie will come in during Thanksgiving and just screw up the whole talk about the NFL season. You know, he doesn't even watch NFL. He's talking about cricket because he lives in freaking the UK, you know, but it doesn't matter to him. He just wants to be part of the conversation. But you're right. It does get frustrating, but you know, they have that block button for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, and it does work.
I usually people, engage.
Yeah. I bait people a lot. I'll admit it. I bait famous people. Hell, I've baited Jeff Meldrum into admitting that he doesn't trust Todd Standing as far as he can throw him, but for some reason he still supports his content that he puts out, which I don't understand unless he's on the payroll. But I digress. Yeah, I try to. Oh my God! Let me sing you the song of my people, my poor birds. You know, it gets to a point though that they don't have anywhere to really interact with each other because none of their stories match.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you're not looking for some interdimensional being named Zorth who came through a portal and turns into a tree. I'm just saying that's not a Sasquatch. Okay, I'm saying that what we're looking for is different than what you're looking for.
Right.
You're just sucking on to us because you've got nowhere to go. The UFO people don't want you. The Bigfoot people don't want you. The paranormal people don't want you. You've got nowhere to go, and the Bigfoot people are the closest things that we can suck onto, just like Brian Sykes. You remember Dr. Brian Sykes?
Yep.
Mr. Brian Sykes, he wanted to be part of the Bigfoot world so far as that he tried to make the Yeti into some kind of specialized bear. And then rode around the Bigfoot trail and all, to all the conferences trying to sell this idea to other scientists who wouldn't give him the time of day on it, only to have his own co-hosts make another show behind him to show that none of that was actually true.
Ugh.
It's just it's sycophantic cultism is what it really is.
And the sad thing about that is that it doesn't matter if you're a researcher or even a scientist to some extent. I mean, look at the Ketchum debacle. I mean, if that wasn't being a sycophant, I've seen that non-disclosure agreement.
Problem with that, but that only lasts a year.
No, it was like
legally that's all they can support. Legally, that's all they can actually enforce in a non. Once it's been released to the world, you're no longer under any NDA.
Right.
So
the fact it's amazing because she was having these people pay her and said, "We're going to tell you the results, but you're not allowed to tell them publicly."
Well,
and you're not allowed to interpret them. You're not allowed to do any of it.
Sample 6 was the Justin Smeha bear steak.
Yes.
Now, I am intimately involved in that particular sample because I was here for it. I was witness to some of the phone calls. I came right after the really horrible phone call during when she was doing all this sampling and she was finding out that we were sending out to other labs to have it, verified that it's something they can't identify. That's all we wanted to know. We were just blindly sending it out to these labs going, no, we just want to know what this is. If you can identify it, that's great. We don't really know what it is. We're not telling them it's bear. We find out what this is. And they came back with bear. In all 3 cases, they came back with bear. But Melba says that there's a full Bigfoot genome on this sample 6, that the mother is completely human and that the father is some kind of unknown monkey ape.
Yep.
Now, the sad part about that is the unknown monkey ape is probably the Bigfoot samples that she has in her data. But she's not willing to follow those because she's already following the cultism that this has to be a hybrid. Now, hybridism doesn't work that way. Okay.
No.
Like here, I love doing this to people, and it really ends up blowing their minds. Like, Chris, I'm going to ask you a question, buddy. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, the egg.
Are you sure? Where did it come from?
Yes, came from a lizard.
Well, yeah, exactly right. You think sideways. It came from the proto chicken. Okay, there were things that weren't exactly what we have as modern day chickens before there were chickens. They were proto chickens. So yeah, you're right. A lizard caught a virus. The virus changed some kind of a protein in the egg, and when the egg hatched, it became something else. That's literally how easy evolution can work. The problem with hybridization is okay, so now you have 7 valleys full of these proto chickens. Okay, 3 of the valleys get infected with this virus, and they're now laying chicken eggs. So 3 valleys have chicken eggs, but 4 valleys have proto chicken eggs and proto chickens. Now you have a giant population of both proto chickens and chickens that now have to interbreed down into whatever the modern chicken comes out to be. Yeah. That's how hybridization works. It can't happen like an unknown monkey ape thing steals an Indian woman, breeds with her. Somehow it magically takes and it spits out a Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot are now in the world.
Right.
One is, and it's probably going to die in infancy. But yeah, if 10,000 Sasquatch invade all the Indian tribes and take 10,000 Sasquatch women or 10,000 women and magically breed with them and magically make hybrids, and then those hybrids breed together, then okay, then that's how a hybrid works. But it's sad that a DNA scientist doesn't understand how hybridization actually works. Right. And then to feed it to a population of sycophants that go, bravo, yes, you're published. Oh, bravo, this is such science. Welcome.
And there's a lot of ways.
But excuse me, Dr. Ketchum, you're published, but you bought the journal.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't want. We of course.
Well, there are a lot of ways that nature prevents crossbreeding too.
That is absolutely correct.
Like we for years, even centuries, farmers and stuff have bred mules for working. Now they didn't breed the mule; they bred a donkey to a horse, and the offspring is a mule.
Or a jackass.
Some people don't know that.
Or a jillass. It just depends.
But the reason why they don't breed two mules is because automatically when the mule is born, they're sterile.
Well,
they can't breed.
We used to think that clear up until about 20 years ago, but they're finding that like 35% of those hybrids, those mules, are actually viably able to create offspring.
I have heard stories about this happening.
Yeah, where they just get out lost in the herd and start breeding, and all of a sudden there's half on. There's that. Yeah. What do you call half horse and a half donkey? Or is that a honky? I don't
know. But there have been the odd story or two that. Yes, you had a Jack and a Jenny, two mules, and
here comes Stroyford throwing in the red herring. Don't forget the Nephilim.
Yeah. The angel DNA that might be in there. Well, I'm trying to figure out where Meldrum's hybrid is, because if I'm not mistaken, not Meldrum. I'm sorry,
Melba's.
Melba and Meldrum just sound similar. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where Melba's hybrid is, because I believe there was a claim that she magically passed out, and it was at her Sasquatch habituation site, and she woke up sore between the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, pow chicka pow wow.
You can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't. Now, after the big release of all of her, her terabytes of data and everything else, and scientists started bouncing their DNA off of the known genome labs and coming back with like panda bear and shit. I mean, it was really insane. I got a hold of the dearly departed J.C. Johnson. Now I'm not going to talk ill about the dead. That's just not right to do. J.C. was a great Fortean investigator. He really would take on just about anything, from giant birds to cannibal dwarves. I mean, if the story was out there, he was on it. And I talked to him at length several times after this whole release, and asked him why he wouldn't come forward and just denounce it. It's like, JC, I know you're a man of Fortean, but you're also a man that applies science to those things to disprove them in many of your cases. You're just like, nah, this wasn't no big ass bird. This was probably some, vulture that somebody just never seen something that big before. But he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. And then the TV started and the press conferences started, and the next thing that got involved with that was the Erickson project.
Yeah.
And that was another, Adrian Erickson was a dupe. He really wasn't a con man. He got duped into all of that. He spent he spent millions of dollars on just absolute garbage. But he did it without any consultation. He didn't really consult anybody that could talk him out of buying stupid stuff like that. Like Wally just would buy stuff and then he would show it to people. But the Erickson people, they really, everybody that surrounded that poor guy just stomped him into the dirt. And it was really kind of sad to see what all that turned into, which was nothing. A guy laying under a carpet, holding his breath as long as he could before he exhaled. The Chewbacca mask, the Matilda Chewbacca mask that they totally ruined Dr. Bendernagel's life with. I honestly feel that Dr. Bendernagel would have most likely felt as though his life was better lived of never seeing a Bigfoot than to get to heaven and find out that the only Bigfoot he ever saw was Matilda the Chewbacca mask.
My, I knew the Erickson Project was in trouble. Years ago, I had heard that the Erickson Project actually was staked out not only in Kentucky with the ORV footage, the pancake eater, that stuff, but it was also staked out on the Janice Carter farm. A lot of people didn't know that, but it was staked out on the Carter farm as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of stories that come out of the Fox the Bigfoot era of the Carter Ranch.
Right.
Janice, again, unfortunately, she had her accident before I met her, so her memories of what really went on before the accident were no longer anywhere near as crisp, shall we say, as they were before she had gotten injured. But that whole saga of Fox and the family and the garlic and the, it fascinates me because I want to believe it. I want to believe that somebody can live deep enough in a rural area like that. I mean, as a kid, my family lived up on the mountain and we owned the whole mountaintop. We had 7 farms on the top of this mountain spread out over, 6 miles. It just was crazy. I mean, there was nobody else up there but us, and there were Bigfoot up there. Now, no, they didn't come down to the house and hang out,
Yep.
but I'm sure they visited through, on a regular basis. I wanted something like that to be able to happen. But then when they started speaking English, they kind of lost me.
And asking for garlic and all that wonderful.
But,
and it's funny, what's his name? Igor Burtsev went down there, and he didn't see nothing for the week he was down there. Not a thing. And you wonder why. But that's when I knew the Evergreen Project is there. This is a bit odd. But then here's another interesting thing. The folks that Erickson had bought the ORV property from, he bought them out and he bought them a new place, gave them money to live there. The diner we went to, they were talking about that. Everybody in the town had seen the Pancake Eater video, even though nobody had seen the Pancake Eater video. Nobody had seen that video in the group, or in the Bigfoot community, I should say, yet, except a few. But the whole town had, because they were throwing parties every week, and they were running out of money really fast. And the next thing you know, that same very family approaches Tom Biscardi and says, "Listen, if you give us $10,000, we'll let you investigate on our property because those Bigfoot followed us over here."
Followed us. Yeah.
And at that point in time, the whole thing was garbage. And the funny thing is, the guy that brought us there, the guy that brought myself and Biscardi there, was a cousin of the folks that own the property. And the funny thing is when the Erickson Project hit, when they started talking a lot about it, the man above you there, Mr. Bennett, got a phone call from the same guy trying to, elicit some kind of, moolah to get his nose into the ORV stuff. So the money grab was still going on.
Well,
10 years later.
That was the thing. They figured out, hey, there's money in this, and apparently some of them got quite a bit of money out of it.
There was money in it. There doesn't appear to be very much money left in it anymore, but there was a whole lot of money that exchanged hands for about 15 years. From about 2005 till this year. There's probably been $100 million changed hand, in Bigfoot property, Bigfoot projects, Bigfoot equipment, Bigfoot. It was like the Falcon Project.
Yes, the Falcon Project.
What a disaster that was. I mean, it was a good idea. Don't get me wrong, but even a lighter than air ship that big is going to make too much damn noise to be silent through the air, as they were talking about. But those people, they actually put men on the ground, promised support, and then abandoned them.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the story people don't know, was the people they put on the ground and then abandoned them. A lot of people don't know that story. Those guys have been really silent on that. I think maybe out of embarrassment. I'm not sure.
No, Kirk Brandenburg was one of those guys, and he talked a lot about it when it first happened. But it was kind of like, tax returns. People just didn't care. Yeah. It just wasn't important enough for people to stay. I mean, the Falcon Project was dead. Apparently, they threw a big party with the $5,000 that they did collect. They threw a big party to try and fundraise more money, but they didn't fundraise any money, and the party cost more than the $5,000 that they had in funds to begin with. So that's what really happened to the Falcon Project.
So B is asking what happened. The Falcon Project was this project. What was the guy's name? William Allen Barnes?
Oh my God. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And
it's been a while.
He had come up with this idea, and for a while he was working with Jason Valenti, who disappeared from the project after a few years. He was working a little bit with Bill Dranginis, who disappeared from the project. Late Bill Dranginis, great guy, miss him. Who else? He was trying to get Meldrum on board, and I know in his conversations he was acting like Meldrum was on board, but I don't think Meldrum was ever committed to it.
Yes, it was William Allen Barnes.
Yeah.
Verified.
Yes, that is correct.
And
he's been on the show. It's been a while.
And he was on the show in 2007 when we started we started this podcast in 2006. He was on the show in 2007 talking about the Falcon Project. And then finally 10 years later, he's putting, what was that, 2016, 2017, they put the guys on the ground? And it all fell.
2016.
Yeah, I was going to say. So 9 years later, they finally supposedly get all this money to put on the ground because he had all these Hollywood investors, and then the Hollywood investors weren't there. And
the sad thing was they actually had two experiences while they were out there.
Yep.
One of them close enough for them to actually make a sketch of it, and those tales are still kind of in the dark.
Right.
You might want to dig up Kurt Brandenburg and have him on the show and ask him about what went on there.
Yeah, I think they had most of those guys sign an NDA. That might be the reason.
Right, but the project doesn't exist anymore.
It's gone. There's no need.
You got to remember, with an NDA is only as good as it's enforceable.
Yeah.
So if the project doesn't have any money to hire a lawyer to take you to court, they can stuff their NDA wherever the sun doesn't shine. I mean, it really is crazy that people sign these non-disclosure agreements just to be in a project or two like that. I mean, I get not wanting to release evidence beforehand, but it's the same reason I don't watch these, the Oak Island show. It's like, if they actually found anything on Oak Island, I would know long before the show came out. Scientific discovery does not wait for reality show reveal.
Right.
I'm
going to get back. Well, hold on to that thought, because I want to get back to shows like Oak Island and stuff like that, because I think there's a certain pertinence with all the shows going on nowadays with Oak Island because I can sit there and watch an episode, and it annoys the hell out of my girlfriend because I can turn around and say, this is what's going to happen with that. Because they all found all the shows, crypto, paranormal, UFO, whatever. They all have a certain formula they use, and I'm gonna try to. So I'm just scrolling through, and I want to make sure I hit some of the questions. Somebody had asked. I think it was who asked the question here? Quickwitty asked about Pilates. What do you think of David Pilates? Is he wacko like Pikachu?
Well, of course David's a nut job. He's a con man. I'll call him out, right? I have offered to openly debate David Pilates on any topic, anywhere, anytime. He wants to come to me because I'm not spending any time going to him. He was in San Francisco, never took me up on it. I mean, the guy is just awful. Sorry. You ask my opinion of the guy. That's my opinion of the guy. But I say the same thing on my show.
I can say he's keeping bad company.
Oh, well, I mean, he is.
I mean, now
he's
he's
the leaderboard of the Ketchum, of the whole Ketchum debacle.
well, yeah.
I mean,
The only time he's ever called me was to say I was wrong about Ketchum.
right,
And then he would point to Scott Carpenter as a reference,
my God.
right? So, who is another Ketchum supporter, but now he's rubbing elbows with Steve Isdall, how to hunt or how not to hunt Bigfoot.
Yeah, how not to hunt Bigfoot.
And all of a sudden, Isdale has got, Isdale made this comment about having a law enforcement officer back up his statements and stuff like that. Well, we all know who he had met the week before, and that was Polites.
Right, Mister, you need to leave the office because you're a douchebag. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud? Scott Carpenter. And that's Mister. I carry a camera on my back so I can see the cloak squatches, right?
Or the blob squatches, because
right. Well, his first release with the Plot Watcher Squatch was interesting.
Yep.
It was. I mean, it was there. It wasn't there. It would look like it came up from behind a tree. I'm not saying it wasn't somebody in some kind of a costume, but I just mean it was interesting. But then he just quickly went over the edge. And what's funny is I lived in Tennessee at the time. I was only like 2 hours from the Smoky Mountain National Park, and I contacted him on several occasions, going, "Look, I'd love to team up with you for a couple of weekends and maybe share some information of, I've been all over the country, Squatchin'. I've heard lots of vocals, could share lots of information with you. Why don't we make a camp somewhere and hang out for a couple of weekends and see what's up?" And nothing, not even a response from the dude. It was very, very strange. And then he went way off the totem pole with, well, you gotta be a pure heart and pure mind to feel the Sasquatches, because you're never gonna see them. They're too fast.
Yeah, and you know what? I would ask them, define a pure heart.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. Well, how are you saying I don't have a pure heart? You don't know who I am. How can you say I don't have a pure heart if you don't know who I am?
Yeah,
that's always been my argument. Well, you gotta have a pure heart. Well, I have a pure heart. I don't mean him no harm. So how am I not worthy and you summarily are? That's always been my big argument with that. There's another question too. There's a couple of actually questions. First is a lowrider had a public service announcement, and he goes, all NDA should come with a peach Snapple.
That's right.
We understand that very.
Joan, get me a Snapple.
Joan, get me a Snapple. Not just a Snapple, but
peach
diet peach.
Diet
Snapple.
Peach. That's important. Yes.
I've been on a water fast for 60 days. Don't tempt me.
So we're going, and Stryfer's just bringing out all the good ones.
Yeah.
But which I love Stephen for that. He's just saying, "Tell it like it is, Reverend." So Timothy McClune asks, "What are your guys' opinions on the how to hunt guy? You mean the how not to hunt Bigfoot guy? And
you mean how to hunt? You mean how to hunt YouTube clicks?
Right? Well, yeah, that's a good one too. I noticed that he never is on expedition, Bigfoot expedition. You never see him actually out in the field looking for Bigfoot. Never. Not
Never
once.
heard of the guy.
Right.
In 20 years of doing this, 20 years of digitally doing this, I've never heard of the guy.
Yeah, and then he has all these anonymous stories, but then he likes dragging things into like the Mel Ketchum, and now they're demonic, and then another week they're not of this earth, and he's gone to posting other people's stuff, including hoaxed pictures up. Like he used a Mark Anders picture and a pic of a footprint, and then says, "Hey, what do you think when you find this on your trail cam?"
I think that your friend is trying to pull a prank on you, and you're a douchebag.
Yeah,
that's what I think when I see that come off of a trail cam, especially since that picture didn't come off of a trail cam at all, ever.
Yep.
Oh,
and
I like the Mark Anders suit. I'm not gonna lie, I like the suit. I just know it's a suit.
Yeah.
It's just
too clean.
Well, yeah, it's not a wild animal. It's a dude in a suit. I mean, I want to know where the suit is now.
Yeah. And then, Steven says the Bluff Creek Massacre hoax.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Now, Bluff Creek Massacre hoax starring MK Davis and the Bat Boxes. So MK Davis, what do we say about MK Davis? MK Davis started into the arena as a all right, we got to go even further back than that. Before there was MK Davis, there was a man named Mike Sells. And
Yes.
Mike Sells was known for putting on monkey suits and videotaping himself and
Ghillie
releasing it.
suits, yeah.
Yeah, and just all kind of, anything that could appear to be a Bigfoot. Take video of himself because the camera was always stable and they had always knew he was coming. And then released it to the Bigfoot world as, authentic Bigfoot video. Now, lots of people fell for it. Lots of people fell for it.
Yep.
Most of us didn't. And over the years that this went on and on and on and on, where the same guy was repeated. I mean,
And his wife was communicating with the Bigfoot in the yard, leaving pictures
yeah.
and crayon drawings coming
Crayon
back.
drawings, yeah.
Because I've seen those. Because
Right.
I've been there. I've met Mike Sells.
Well, after Mike died,
Yep.
somehow MK Davis got a hold of Mike Sells videotapes.
Yep.
And starts making and he
Excellent
starts,
drawing, Chris.
He starts making digital videos of the screen that the VHS videos are playing on, and doing commentary about how, well, this could be a Bigfoot. Yeah, look how it jumps the fence and then gets on the bicycle and rides away. I'm not saying it's a Bigfoot, but you make up your own mind.
Yeah.
I'm MK Davis. I'm Robin Leach, and I don't know why. It's just to the point that MK Davis was yucky. The name was yucky. It was just everything it was involved with was yuck. And then he started doing stabilizations on the Bluff Creek film that were like crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
He actually was contributing to making it far more believable than it ever was before, taking the shake out of it. I don't know where the guy got the stabilization software for it. Those days you could steal a lot of stuff from the internet. So, I'm not saying that that's how it happened, but, one might, say that it could be the way it happened. But then later on, he starts this. I'm trying to figure out how to tie it in. Steven would be the guy that would know, but he didn't put it in there. But basically, the other footage around the Sasquatch being filmed at Bluff Creek popped up, and there was footage of John Green, and there was footage of them tracking, and there was footage of a dog and some water, and MK started playing around with the colors and started changing everything red hued, and all of a sudden the puddle looked like a blood pool. And he put forth this theory that Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were hunting Bigfoot down there in Bluff Creek and had shot Patty, pow, right through the thigh. And they were chasing her down when they were videotaping her. And that's what that little bubble in her thigh was, that everybody thought there was a defect in the muscle in Patty's thigh for years.
Yep.
It actually ended up turning into being a digital anomaly from the copies that were made of them back in the day. You go to the earlier copies, it's not actually there. But that there was a whole bunch of Sasquatch that had gotten killed, and Patty had gotten away, and they buried a bunch of them, and there was a bunch of babies dead laying over in the bushes. I mean, it just got to be ridiculous again. It's like the guy's manic Bigfoot. I don't want bipolar Bigfoot, I guess, up and down and up and down. And then after he does all of this, he goes back and does a 4K stabilization of the Bigfoot footage of him walking across the creek bed. That's even better than the last one that he did. And it's just like, oh, we're back on a high again, are we, MK? I mean, God, it's like dealing with a crackhead.
It's pretty rough. I mean, how you get from one to the other, all these assumptions. It's just, Chris, I didn't tell everybody, but I've been working as a sketch artist, practicing as a sketch artist the last several months. And actually a local police department actually commissioned me to do my first sketch. And I want to show everybody this. This guy actually robbed the local liquor store. And this is what it is right there. Okay? Not too bad.
He looks mean.
Wanted, dead or alive. Guy with spiky hair. Recently drank milk.
But I do remember, though, Steve telling me about the crayon drawing communication and stuff, and that was rich. Okay,
And I remember, and it's kind of funny because I met this guy. He was in Fort Worth, and apparently he had been working with Mike Sells and several others that had been doing this. And I remember him. He had this in a plastic Ziploc bag, and he had a bunch of papers in there. And he's like, "Here, I'm like, what's this? They're messages from Bigfoot."
Messages.
And I'm like, I'm like,
okay.
I think I got a crown to be filled or something. Something, root canal.
Look at the time.
Where'd the time go? It was pretty bad. I started looking through those things, and this guy he was like sweating looking at him. I mean, he's such a believer, and it's sad that we have people that do things like this, and they bring these people into it that want to believe so bad.
Yeah. That they'll believe almost anything.
Right. And, there have been several requests, though, to talk about your Bigfoot experience in the chat.
Well, okay. I could do that. Picture yourself rural Pennsylvania along the Allegheny Mountains, the Appalachian Trail type of situation. Is where our family was from. We are actually from the poorest city in America called Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It's outside of Pittsburgh, way up in the mountains. It's in a bowl of a mountain.
Had a flood a long time ago.
Oh yeah, a couple of big floods. Yeah, back in the 1800s, there was a wooden dam that broke, and then a couple of big dams. The last big one was in '77, and I was 4 years old, and Mom and I sat on the back porch, listening as the flood came down the mountainside, as it ripped through the barbed wire mill first up on the hill, and then tore through houses and people and a little bit of farmland, and then came down around the corner and tore through the train car mill, and finally came into a rest as it broke out the oil tankers and lit on fire. Yeah. So that's one of my very earliest memories of the world is the flood of '77.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's where we were from, and we dealt a lot of things in the mountains, and we hunted. I mean, that's where our main staple of food came from. We were game people, and we had some hunting property up in Pennsylvania, right outside of town, really. Now, at 9 years old, my pap and I were going out to get a load of water, and the water out there, the springs will just literally just spring out of the hillside in a pipe. Somebody will go knock a pipe into the side of the hill, and a freshwater spring will be there. So you just kind of pull up next to it and fill up your jugs of water and go back to town. And my pap was shaking, and I asked him, I was not shaking, but just shaking. He just wasn't right. There was something wrong with him that morning. It was real early. And I asked him, I was like, Pap, what's going on? He's like, well, Jeffrey, do you know what a Bigfoot is? At 9, I knew what a Bigfoot was. I'd seen the Patterson film on those spooky shows with Mr. Spock and those guys, and looked it up in the school library and saw the picture of the ice pick next to the Yeti track and all of that. Read everything I could on it, and I told him, I said, I don't know what it is, but yeah, I've seen about it. He says, well, I kind of saw one of those. I was like, what do you mean you saw one of those? He goes, well, my pap was known for making a little bit of corn whiskey here and there, and had a still up on the hill. And, driving up to the hill, he said it crossed up in front of him across this trail. He kind of slammed on the brakes, didn't really know what it was, thought it was a weird bear, and didn't think much of it. So they gets up to the still and gets everything running. It doesn't take overnight to make whiskey. I mean, it takes a few days to actually get that stuff going on. You got to take time for the mash to get going and ferment and do all that stuff. And he had said that something was just kind of in the shadows every night, just kind of bugging with him, just like cracking wood, just cracking big branches, and just kind of making hooting noises that weren't owls. See, he said it sounded like an 800-pound owl. Just bugged him until the last night it threw one of his old thump barrels into camp. Now, I don't know if you know what a thump barrel is, but it's a big oak barrel that they use to cool the whiskey down before it drips into the bottle. and they are soaked. I mean, they are alcohol soaked to the point that they are heavy things. And it just come flying into camp and just cracked right into the middle of it. He grabbed up his shotgun and sat with his back up against the shack for the night and waited for the sun to rise and decided the whiskey wasn't worth it. He put the fire out, and opened up the tank and drove down the hill. And when he had gone back up to the site a couple of weeks later to start up again, there was a handprint in the middle of his brass topper. Now, what the topper is, it sits over top of the boil keg so that it condensates up over the top of it and goes to the spiral and comes down. And that's spun brass. I mean, that's heavy duty, thick stuff. I mean, you're not just, he said there was a giant handprint just kind of pushed into the middle of that topper, and everything was just kind of kicked around camp. And that was my first real story of somebody actually encountering a Sasquatch. Well, it wasn't, I guess I was 16. It was the first year I was driving, and I'd gone up to camp probably 10 days before hunting season. Dressed in camo, no weapons, just kind of wanted to scout out where things were. I was a stock hunter. I didn't like to sit up into the tree stands and wait for them to walk by. That was just too boring for me. I like to stalk and hunt, and everybody else sat in the tree stands because I'd spook the damn deer up and they'd shoot them from the tree stands. So nobody really complained about it. So I drove up to the hunting camp and parked my car and was out walking around pretty much all day. Just didn't really see much. And there was a meadow in the backside of the property. So I figured they've all got to be laying back there in the meadow somewhere. So I started walking down the game trail, kind of quiet, just looking around. And I hear just what sounds like a big crashing buck coming through the brush, coming along the side of the meadow. Now, the meadow was out in front of us, and it was coming along the wood line along parallel to the meadow. So it was either a predator. Who knew what it was? So I kind of crouched down between this tree and this bush. And I'm all in camo, but I don't have any weapons on me. I'm just kind of sitting there waiting for a big buck to walk out, and out steps this big 7-foot plus tall ape thing, just as plain as day, just proud as one big step, 2 big steps. He was out of the woods. 3 big steps, he was halfway down the hill, and on the 4th big step, he was on the game trail. Now, he never looked at me. He was going somewhere. He had shit to do. But he was kind of scanning. He wasn't really, he never turned and looked at me, so I never got a full-on side of the face. But I got the whole profile of the head and the minus of the neck, and the way the body was real. It was a barrel at the top, and then it kind of narrowed down into this real solid core at the waist, and then opened up into these great big thick thighs and these really long weird legs. And like I said, hanging between them was a set of nuts the size of your fists, man. I mean, they just didn't see no penis, didn't see none of that. There was these great big lumps hanging right out front, going right down. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a gorilla, but a gorilla's got balls the size of your fists. With no penis hanging out of it. So, I mean, it's just the way the case was. He turned up the other side of the hill, reached up, and it was weird. He reached up into the tree line this way and grabbed a tree with one hand, and reached up into the tree line and grabbed a tree with the other hand, and pulled himself up into the tree line. And 3 big steps, crashing again, he was gone. And 6 or 7 big steps, I heard nothing.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, the whole encounter lasted 25 seconds, and I was 25 yards. I mean, that is enough. I peed myself a little. I'll be honest. I was scared. I was a 16-year-old kid. I didn't really believe that Pap saw a Bigfoot, but what do you do when Bigfoot shows up? You pee yourself a little bit. I decided that I was no longer interested in what was up in the meadow anymore, and I kind of backed out the other way, got in my car, and drove home. And that was my very first Bigfoot sighting. And it was full on, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Anytime, Bigfoot don't exist. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to believe. He believes in you. What are you gonna do when he shows up? That's all. That's all I'm gonna say. What are you gonna do when he shows up? That started it all. I mean, from that weekend on, man, anywhere I thought there were Bigfoot, any weekend I could be in the woods, I was in the woods.
Well, Jeff, I mean, I know it's been a long time ago, man, but can you remember feeling any sort of weird sensations with your ears? when you had that sighting? I know it's like,
well, no, the
trying
fear, the fear itself. I remember the fear. I mean, it overtook me. I mean, there was no doubt. I was 100% fearful, and at that time, I wasn't afraid of nothing. That same year in October, I went to a haunted house at a firefighters fundraiser, and got spooked out in a strobe room and took a fire axe from a firefighter. Okay, that same exact year. So I wasn't afraid of nothing, but that thing, the fear, the feeling of all of that, that hair raising, that just ringing of the body saying you don't want to be here right now.
Right.
There was no doubt about it, but I think it was 100% natural in me. I don't believe that the Sasquatch was doing that because he never saw me.
Yeah.
If he would have looked at me and then, got the ringing of the face or the whole, what do they call that? That infrasound.
Infrasound, yeah.
Now, my whole thing is with the infrasound is this. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that they're not capable of using it. I'm not saying that it's not detectable in their audio clips that we have. What I am saying is it ain't knocking nobody to the ground. It ain't making nobody stupid, and it ain't really doing nothing to you because they're basing all of this on tigers and elephants. Let me ask you this. How many tigers or elephants have ever killed anybody with infrasound?
None that I know of.
Right. I mean, yes, like I said, when that tiger roars and that infrasound comes out, but it's not the infrasound that scares the living crap out of you.
Yeah.
It's them great big teeth, and the fact that he's going to come eat you. That really instills that fear, deep. It's a carnal. I don't want to, because that thing gave me the impression that had it seen me and wanted to, it could rip my arms off and beat me to death with it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's really
the fact that, it probably didn't notice you might be the reason why you didn't have any weird sensations too, because a lot of people don't realize this, but I don't think you can just go out in the woods and expect to run up on one because you got its number. I think most of the sightings that happen are just by chance. It's like
100%. Yes,
right?
I would totally.
What are you doing there?
Totally agree with that. 100%. 2 seasons ago, I was up at Bluff Creek with Jonathan Sasquatch, who does the Western Bigfoot exploration, and we'd done a real light trip. He just brought some backpacking gear, and I just actually crashed in the truck that we came in. And first night, normally on first nights of expeditions, it's all quiet. You've made so much noise coming in there. You stink to high heaven. Your truck stinks like gasoline. You're just dripping everything everywhere. You're peeing everywhere. There's just so much human stink around that nothing can really get past that wall of, ugh, no one wants to be around you right now. It takes a whole day for that to kind of waft off. And if you're careful after that, you kind of get back to normalcy after that. The second night that we were out there after moonrise, moonrise was about 2:30 in the morning. We got 2 solid alert whoops. Now, there wasn't anybody else around. We were the only ones. The party, it was after the 4th of July. It was the beginning of August. We had already been all around the area for those couple of days. We had been up to Onion Lake. We had been, down to over top of the Bluff Creek site. We'd been up and nobody was out there camping. There was nobody else around us. And at 2:30 in the morning, it was whoop, whoop. Now, both of us heard it and both of us got woke up by it. And I didn't get out the truck because if they were coming up on camp, I wanted to look through the mirrors or look around or see them, walk past the truck. I just kind of laid there and watched the mirrors that I could. And he just kind of, his tent isn't all that thick to begin with, so he just kind of peered around his tent for about 45 minutes, and then there was nothing. It was just dead silence. So I finally got out the truck and took a pee, and again, it was just dead silence. It was very, very strange because it's the same type of alert whoop that I have gotten in the Sierras, that I've gotten in the Tennessee mountains, that I've heard in the Smokies, that I've heard in the Appalachians, that I've heard in lower Georgia, that I've heard in upper Florida. And if you watch some of these chimp troop movies, documentaries on TV, you'll see, you know, the core of the chimp troop is in the middle, and then they've got these little crews that kind of run around the outside of them as, you know, as guards pretty much. And anytime they see something, they start to whoop. And it was very much like that. They were like, these things were coming up, and all the berries, we were eating berries in camp. There were huckleberries fresh all over the place. I mean, it was ridiculous how much food there was literally laying right there in camp with us. And I think they were just coming up the creek eating early morning, you know, because sunrise is coming, and just whoop, whoop. Yeah. What's that, Pop? You know, and next thing you know, they're running into a car there, because there isn't a whole lot of camping that goes on down there. You know, those creatures probably roam through Bluff Creek 50 weeks a year without worrying too much about running into people. Well, maybe not that often, but 40 weeks a year easily. Right. So, you know, it was just it's like that. You know, the vocalizations of Bigfoot, we have a lot more accounts of these days, but you know, there's been so much of the woo people out there now stealing them and like making adjustments to them and claiming them as their own. There was just, you know, in the hoaxers group just last couple of weeks ago, somebody was doing that. It's like, we know where these sounds come from. We're going to track them down. Why you try to hide, you know, where the side, you know, I just don't get it. I mean, there is so much evidence out there that it's easy enough to weed through it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times, well, Steve and I have both seen that too, Jeff, because a lot of times some of the new evidence that pops up has been stolen from somewhere else.
Oh, yeah.
From a long time ago.
Yeah. The problem is every couple of years you get a new crew coming in. They have no idea what's left, what's right. Yeah. And even today, I saw in one of the groups somebody posting the Sean Bannon video of remember those the creature of the sequoias.
Oh, God.
And people are saying, "Oh, well, yeah, that looks
stage disco dancing."
And then there's people saying, "Oh, looks real to me. Looks real to me. Looks real to me." Folks, this is the Sean Bannon hoax. And now, if you go to his YouTube site, you will see that he says that they are not real.
Originally, when before that was all tracked out, I liked that. I like the jumping one, the where it had jumped down, you know, a good 12 or 15 foot drop down in front of those sequoias. I really liked that video. I was like, the hair's not right.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's always the sequence. Do you think if something like that really happened, it would show up on YouTube first?
Right.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. You see these people, you know.
Now with live streaming, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Just a question. Robin Rose had sent me, I saw the video. I watched the video while Jeff was talking. Enough people could see me looking up. In my summation is it's not moving. It's a shadow of some sort. When you have something that long for that length of time, and it doesn't move, you can't detect any movement. It's an inanimate object.
Even when the guy in the video said, "Look, it's moving," it wasn't moving.
It wasn't moving.
No.
The camera was moving.
No, sorry.
Well, you know, it happens.
It looked good. It looked good from a distance, but if it's going to stand there for half hour in one spot, it's probably still there.
Oh, you mean like non-blinky?
Oh, this was just a blob squatch off in the distance. It was just this dark.
Oh, we're talking a mile away.
Oh,
yeah,
that's like the Facebook group burnt out stumps that look like Bigfoot.
Yeah, hard to say. And you know, supposedly it was a 12-foot tall Bigfoot because of the size.
Oh God, I love those. Look at that tree shadow. It's a 12-foot Bigfoot. No,
but thanks for bringing that to our attention, Robin, because you know that's going to make the rounds now, and people are going to say, "Oh, look at the Sasquatch." No, it's not moving. Sorry.
If there was somebody that lived near that area, it would be great if you could go back and do like a follow-up photo or video of the same area. And I think it's on the video I watched, they said it was Pigeon Mountain near Alberta, right along the Alberta Highway or whatever number that is. I don't know. But if somebody could get a picture, you know, a follow-up, that would help. You know, if it's still there today, then probably wasn't a Bigfoot, you know. But if it's gone, hey, you know, that could add a little credibility.
Follow up is everything.
Yeah.
I'll give you a good example of that. We went and investigated up there at the Browns property when I was still with David a few years back. And, I always, there's definitely foliage between the thermal camera and the subject of the Bigfoot.
Mhm.
It's definitely framing it in a way that it shouldn't be. Okay, so it's actually something else giving the cast that it looks like a barreled chest and a head, but that's because there's a tree branch in front of them, that's blocking things back and forth there, and there's a trail that actually runs right down where that creature was standing, and they kept telling us that nobody, that the cows didn't use that trail. There were never any cows on that trail. Cows never used that trail. No, that trail was too thin for cows. Cows don't go down that trail. And we set up our hammocks on the cow side of the fence that night on purpose because we kind of wanted to invade the Bigfoot space. It's like well, nobody ever does that. I'm like, well, good, then we're gonna go do that. What is it gonna hurt? We're gonna hang from our hammocks from the trees for a couple of days. It's not gonna hurt anything. And 3 o'clock in the morning, I get this feeling that I'm being stared at, and I'm like, oh shit. So I pull my hammock down over my side and I look, and some bitches, your eyeballs staring at me from like 30 feet away. I'm like, and then I look and there's two more, and there's two more, and there's two more. There's 100 head of cattle, and they all go right down that trail.
Yeah, that happened to us one night. Thermals are great because I remember walking up this dark Vermont trail and we hear these vicious dogs barking. Like, what the hell? We round the corner, and here's all these glowing eyes looking at us as we shine the flashlight. And then, like, is it a pack of coyote or wolves or what? And then we hear, meh. Okay, it's safe. Let's go.
I'm sitting at camp in the Sierras, and the guys come back after riding quads for a couple hours out looking for tracks. And they're like, well, we either just saw a volcano explode or a UFO, and we're not sure which. I'm like, well, what do you mean you either saw a volcano explode or a UFO? You don't know which. Was there lava involved? He's like, no. I said, well, then maybe it was a UFO.
Yeah.
Apparently they had gotten up on the hill, and instead of doing a cow lease that year, they did a sheep lease. And they got up in the middle of all these sheep that were around them that they didn't know about, came around the corner and spooked them, and they all ran. And he swore that it looked like a rocket ship, like a UFO taking off out of the meadow and going up into
space. I'd be like, volcano, excuse me, I have to pack.
Yeah, it's time to go. I believe Truckee is that way, downhill, right?
Oh, and Quick Witty is throwing the silver herring again. The Yowie photo from the 30s is the real deal. I wish we knew.
Oh God, I just watched a TV show. Now we wanted to get back on that TV show thing because it's we're already 50 minutes almost into this thing over. I watched that Travel Channel show with the girl Ryder that used to be part of the Josh Gates show.
Yeah.
And the Legend of Bigfoot, I guess, is what they were calling it. And, one of the stories they went and investigated was in Oregon. And somebody said at an old ski lodge in the 80s, there were 3 Yeti living in an abandoned cabin. Not Sasquatch, not Bigfoot, but most definitely Yeti.
Okay.
Now, of course, there's a lot of questions as to how would a Yeti get here? Why would a Yeti be in Oregon? Why would a Yeti live inside of a cabin? Not Bigfoot, not Sasquatch, but Yeti, sure. So they take the guys from Sacramento who do the eDNA, the water tests up there. And, they do a bunch of snowshoeing around and, they don't find much of anything. Of course, this was 1986 when the sighting had occurred, but they're going to go investigate it now, I guess, because they have money to spend. And I like the DNA guys because the story will finish out in a good way. But they take a whole bunch of water samples, and what they do is they run these water samples through filters, and then they collect the particles inside of those filters, and they run them for whatever DNA they can pull out of them. Once upon a time, you kind of had to know what DNA you were looking for so that they knew which primers to use to extract the DNA out of the sample that you have. Now they have these core samples of primers that they can just run the DNA through, and it'll spit out everything that was in there. I mean, we really are coming into a cool time of DNA. But they run these filters, and they take them back into the lab, and they're like, well, we got the usual stuff. We got fish, and we got critters, and we got this and we got that. But we didn't see any signs of bear. And I was like, well, it's freaking Oregon. You're on 10 feet of snow. Of course there's no bear, dumbass. They're hibernating. Mm-hmm. I mean, where would there be bear at this time of year? You freaking moron. Now, when they came up, they did an investigation up here in the Sierras at what we call Site B, where most of our tracks and vocals and just evidence really come from. Our primary site, where the kill site actually isn't really even the primary site where we get most of the evidence from. That's just the event site. Site B is actually a couple of miles away, a little bit lower in altitude on a different mountainside. On a different side of the mountain. But they took them down there to Site B, where they had a sighting up on a ridge line, where they had kind of chased it down, and those same guys had done water filter samples through the eDNA in the lower tributaries where all the lakes drain out of. And when they pulled those results, they said, that they had not only found human, but they had also found human-like DNA. It was as close to human as a chimpanzee. It was like 97.9 or 98%. It definitely was not human. There was enough primer differences for them to say that we're not sure what this is. And that's the kind of evidence that we need more of. We need more of that super close to human DNA that's not human DNA, because that's what the old primers couldn't get past. You heard Todd Disso, well, I've never seen any Bigfoot DNA. All I've ever seen is human DNA. Well, Todd Disso, chances are you've seen Bigfoot DNA and just classified it as human and passed over it like the douchebag that you are. But, sorry.
This is
revealing. I know, really revealing night. You're not going to have any friends left after this one. Remember, these are the thoughts of the Reverend Jeff Kelley, and not the thoughts of Steve Culls or the Squatch-D TV show.
That is correct.
There you go. So I'll give you my own my own disclaimer. You can put that at the beginning of the show if you want to. But I mean, the chances are that these DNA guys have actually probably seen real Bigfoot DNA and just passed over it as human or too human to be. As
the Smithsonian probably has some Bigfoot bones that are just unclassified and have no idea what they are.
That is a good question, because you would think in antiquity, of even in the United States, from the time that we became a lumber mill for Europe, because that's all we really were. There were far more Bigfoot in the world than there are now. I do still feel that there are Bigfoot all across America, from the middles of Florida through the Ocala National Forest and all through the swamps of the South, clear through every mountain range between here and California. But I would say that most of them probably still live in Western Canada, where nobody lives.
Well, the other thing about bones, and this is what gets me, is every once in a while, this is one of the most asked questions you ever see amongst Bigfoot community members, especially those who are new. Do you think Bigfoot bury their dead? And my answer to that was always no, because if we buried their dead, we would have found some of their bones eventually. Because burying protects the bones from scavengers. You put a deer out in the middle of a field, it disappears within a couple of weeks. Everything. The bones are scavenged. So if you bury the bones, then the scavengers can't necessarily scavenge them, which is why every so often,
Cameron Young,
they eat their dead. That could be too, but like. Especially like in Albany, they had to stop. They were doing a dig. They had to stop in Albany, New York. Now, mind you, Albany is one of the oldest cities in the country. They had to stop because they found a Native American burial ground, and there's the bones. but never are they, well, we discovered this bones we can't figure out. No, there's been times they found Homo erectus, which did bury their dead.
Right.
But
that,
to me, the evidence seems that it would go against that.
Well, then you got to think back, though. What is a Bigfoot? Now, for me, I honestly think that Bigfoot is the fifth chimpanzee. I mean, through the great ape scale, you have chimpanzees, you have billy apes, you have bonobo, you have humans, and it would be just logical to think that Sasquatch would be, along that same chimpanzee line, because everything really that came later really has been. But does it fall into what that paranthropus is? Now, if you don't know what a paranthropus is, all along human development, all the way back to Homo naledi. Now, Homo naledi is that little 3-foot monkey thing that went south instead of going north and carried torches and buried its dead in a cave.
Yep.
Now, mind you, we didn't find any of them for millions of years.
Yep, very true.
So if Bigfoot buried their dead in caves, it very well could be that we're not going to find them for millions of years either.
Exactly.
But going back to the point that, going all the way back to Homo naledi, who did bury their dead and use torches and fire, which is very strange for a monkey-type creature. There were these upright walking, robust boned, thick haired, short necked creatures called paranthropus. And paranthropus literally means beside us. They're not Homo sapien line. They are something else. But through Homo erectus and Neanderthal and Heidelbergensis and all of those guys, there was also a paranthropus species that followed along all of their lines as well that led to us. So where we get to Homo sapien in the end is the Sasquatch, not necessarily the paranthropus species that was started from the chimpanzee line all those years ago, just, what's the word? Darwinism, evolving, alongside of the Homo sapiens to the point that now we've destroyed most of the habitat that they want to be in because we're constantly in there molesting it.
Yep.
Now,
a couple of more questions are popping through. Sure. So I'm going to take OT's question first because it's more in the line of what we're talking about right now, and then I'm going to get to Quick Witty's question. And I have heard neither, but has the good Reverend Captain ever heard of Bigfoot using fire or tools? And he addressed you properly, Reverend Captain?
Yes, that's right. I believe that's the way that goes. I think, yeah, that's for sure. Thank you, sir. Some stories of the Native Americans relate that they'll use spears, or that they'll use, hatchets or knives or that type of thing. But usually when you punch down on those stories, those are more what they call the other tribes, more than they're actually talking about, Bigfoot or Sasquatch or that type of thing. And of the cast record that we have of Bigfoot hands, the knuckle print and, the Bosberg snow print, the thumb doesn't seem to be in such a place that it would be adaptable to napping. And that's what it would have to. I mean, it's not forging. They're definitely, they don't have, iron forges out in the woods banging away, making tomahawks. So that's not happening. So if they are using tools, will a creature like that pick up a rock to hammer something with it? Sure. Chimpanzees do. The basic, right? The basic organic tool use. Absolutely. I would say that a Sasquatch would be way smart enough to pick up a branch and beat you to death with it. I don't think he'd have a problem with it. The billy apes are called lion killers for a reason.
Yeah.
Bluff Creek Project has gotten pretty much every living animal in Bluff Creek, even the endangered Humboldt marten, even the rare Reverend Jeff on trail cameras. Not a single Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well,
I can be a little
frustrating.
Disheartening. Yeah, disheartening.
But I've seen them, Steven, so I don't have to worry about catching them on your trail cam. And let's be honest, all of your trail cams, every single one of them that you have, you're still only looking at a postage stamp.
Needle in a haystack.
Yep, you're looking at a postage stamp of the forest, my friend.
I always say that too.
Let me go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, they're still having them down at eye level and looking at things coming up and down trails, rather than putting them up in trees and having them take a picture every 5 seconds and taking things from a distance. You don't get pictures of a Sasquatch by randomly putting up cameras on trees that have never seen footprints of a Sasquatch. First you find tracks, Then you put on a camera to see what leaves those tracks. Have there been any tracks in the places that you guys are putting up cameras? At one time, 1967, have there been any more tracks in that area since you started putting up those cameras there? That's what you have to ask yourself. Yeah. Are your cameras in the right place? And are they being utilized properly?
If you do get a picture, is anybody going to believe it?
I think from that group it would get some interest.
I would still say it's going to come to scrutiny.
Oh yeah, Robert Trent said that if you had a Bigfoot body, you'd have to drag it from conference to conference so that the scientists would actually believe you.
Right. You know, and I don't want to open up any wounds or anything like that, but like the Vermont trail cam photo, you know, we sent that to a scientist. You know, people say, "Oh, it's an owl." But we took the shadowing did not look right to me. I know about the parallax view. I sent it to a scientist, and the scientist says it can't be a bird. Look at the leading edge shadow. It's not something close to the camera. It's something on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, what does that leave you then? Guy in a ghillie suit? Well, does that make any sense? Number one, it looks like no ghillie suit I've ever seen. You know, it wasn't hunting season. There was no firearm there. And it's the guy's front yard, and it's clearly marked.
It's dark. Yeah, I mean, who's going to be in the dark freaking taking apples off the ground of some random guy's house? I mean, that's that's where you get your eye shot.
And then you look at the area. Yeah. 10 months earlier, there was a sighting not 9/10 of a mile from the house, and you know, even a couple of years later, there was a sighting not 5 miles from the house. So. Are people going to believe it if you get one anyway? It doesn't matter. If you get one, people are going to say it's something else. It's this, it's that, it's whatever.
And the big conundrum is you know, there's that big kill or no kill debate that's always been out there, and that's caused huge rumbles. I mean, straight up, like, I'll come to your house and kill you if you kill a Bigfoot type of rumbles. I mean, seriously demented people over some of this stuff. But if you don't kill it, say you want to take it alive, where are you taking it? Yeah. Who has the facilities to take care of an 8-foot primate that you don't know the dietary needs of, that you don't know the security needs of?
Here's what happens there. Hello, honey? Yeah, I'm coming home with something. Yeah, just do me a favor. Yeah, put down a lot of newspaper. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah, right. Make sure that the neighbor cleans his pool because we're gonna have to give him a bath. Man. But I mean, I would like to see one. I would like to see one captured, but first we have to prove that they're there. And you know, like I saw something go by in the chat box about the Area X guys. You know, and you know, those guys, I had a lot of respect for those guys in the beginning. I really did, until, you know, here we are 5-6 years into it, and there's no real evidence coming out of it at all, but there's still huge claims that are coming out of it. Like there was one claim that I heard where one night they had 100 rocks thrown onto the roof of their cabin out there that's on the location. Well, if you've got 100 rocks that were touched by Bigfoot, you can get DNA off of them.
Yeah.
Or you should have some track evidence. You should have something.
There should be something close enough for, you know, they got to be close enough to hit the damn place. And they said they were on the roof of it. So, I mean, it wasn't like they disappeared, you know, it wasn't dust or something or mud balls that were being thrown. Yeah. I mean, they literally had collected them all, but they hadn't, they hadn't really, you know, there was nothing ever came of it. And they manned it so well. I mean, they had it going 24/7. They had mostly credible people there. There were some lunacy, you know, the people that were involved with it, but they were pretty much just told to collect evidence and shut up. But you know, here we still are now. And what really do we have out of Area X? Stories.
Yeah.
Same stories that we get out of anywhere else that's running a long-time project. Like I heard a story about, it was told to me by the person who was involved with it, and I still don't believe it, when they were up with the Olympic Project. You know, they were out with the Olympic Project for an expedition for a week, and they had been hiking up along their normal, you know, trail cam route, and it was nighttime, and they got into a conversation of Bigfoot grunts back and forth with a Bigfoot. Now, this was one of these famous adventurer people who might have been a mailman in the UK, if you want any questions as to who it might have been. You know, and they were talking about how they were grunting and calling back and forth to each other and this amazing interaction with the Sasquatch went on. There's Rod Dupree. He's always in the place to be. And my first question was, where's the audio?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, nobody was running a recorder at that time. I'm like, well, no one was running video either. You don't have anything to verify that this incredible Sasquatch interaction went on with anybody. I'm like, that you guys are professionals, right? I mean, you guys are pros at this. I mean, seriously? I mean, nobody has any kind of anything to say that this actually went on besides
whenever 2012, whenever hit that vehicle out in the parked out on the roadway, when we were doing it, we had audio of it. It was going overnight, always.
Yeah.
It's the basics 101.
Sadly for me, my last trip up the Bluff Creek, I hadn't updated the firmware in my video or my digital recorder, and it stopped at 8 hours. And we got those whoops at 8 hours and 20 minutes.
And I mean, that happens.
Like, I had it running. I just didn't know I'd never run it for 8 hours or more. I was never asleep for more than 4 or 5 hours.
There's a big difference between a couple of whoops and saying that, okay, our cabin got attacked with a bunch of rocks and we didn't have audio going. I would avoid the embarrassment and not say anything about it all. Let's see if it happens again, and we'll run the recorders.
At least Ron Moorhead has the interaction of whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you stand on the Sierra Sounds? I mean, do you want to put an honest opinion out there, or you just...
Here's the thing, and I say this with all the old evidence, Patterson-Gimlin film included. The story sounds really good. I heard the audios. I was impressed with them in my earlier years. Now, as I've gotten older and more into the field and been out there and all that other stuff, and over the years, I have questions because I don't ever heard those sounds anywhere else but the Sierras.
No, not the Sierras, just at that location.
Right. You know what? The Sierra sounds. I've never heard them anywhere else except the whoops and then that tree knocking, maybe the clapping. But the really robust ones, the samurai chatter, that stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard people say, well, I've heard that, but I don't know if that's just their mind fooling them, or, they've heard that before, or they heard it and say, yeah, that's what it is. Because I'll tell you, doing what I've done professionally for years, you can describe someone, and I've done it before. I've described somebody completely wrong. Yeah, that was the guy. Okay, I know you didn't. I know you didn't see anything. You see, but people want to attribute something so badly to something else to help validate their experience that they will get suggestions from listening to. Just like somebody had put this, and this blew me away. As now, a lot of people know I do paranormal investigation as well. This blew me away. Somebody had put this video out. And it said, and you hit the play, and it says, say this phrase or this phrase. Look at this phrase, and this is what you'll hear. If you look at this phrase, this is what you'll hear. And my God, it was working. It would say one phrase. It was the same clip. So then what I did was, okay, let me break this into two more. And I took half of that phrase and mixed it with half of that phrase, the back half of that phrase. And sure enough, it was saying those things, even though they made no sense at all.
Right.
So because it wasn't saying anything at all. It was just noises that were recognizable almost as something, much like the Matrixing or pareidolia.
It's like audio pareidolia, basically.
Yeah, people see faces and everything because that's what your brain is trained to see.
So me as a paranormal investigator, when I looked at that, I automatically said, "Wow!" And now I'm going to break into those TV shows like we're talking about. Because I had seen a show, it was the Alaska Triangle with Adam Davies included, one of the people that's a regular on that show. Well, this had to do with a paranormal investigation, and they said, well, they heard this, it said this, and then here's the other guy saying, no, actually, it said that, and it's kind of funny because at that very moment, I inverted the last word in the thing, and I heard something completely different than anybody. And I said, I heard that clear as day. It makes no sense. I want you cow or something like that, or I want you,
Right.
whatever. And I just changed it with the other word it said, and it said it in my mind. I go, pause that for a second. Let's play that back. Now, I want you to think this is what it's going to say. I want, boom. Played it in front of my girlfriend. She goes, my God, it did say that. So
way back in the day, there was on the Art Bell show, there was the fella that used to do reverse speech.
Yes.
And he would record children. And then he would invert it, and it would, you would actually, he says, now if you listen, it's going to say, what are you doing, David? And then he'll play it in reverse, and you'll hear, what are you doing, David? But that isn't what it said, because I went back and cut some of just the out and put them in line and listened to him. It ain't say shit.
Yeah.
Your mind made it say what he's telling you it said.
Yeah.
And just like the shows on TV, they kind of lead you towards all of that.
And now I understand.
It's like a magic trick.
Now I understand. While reviewing evidence with another researcher, we got into so many arguments over what it was saying, what this was saying. It was saying nothing. And that's the sad thing about it. To me, it just destroyed any EVP evidence that ever existed.
I'm not saying that if you go and sit in the middle of a graveyard at night with a digital recorder and record for 10 hours, that you won't hear some weird, spooky crap. Not saying that at all. I'm just saying it ain't talking to you and it doesn't know your grandma.
Right. You know what was really weird? I was at, what the hell was it? The Genesee Poorhouse. It's called, not Waverly Hills Sanitarium. But anyway, I was at this very famous sanitarium. Ghost Adventures has been there. Ghost Hunters have been there. I was in their boiler room, and all of a sudden, I'm doing live time because I got myself plugged in, and I hear this little girl's voice very clear, and I have it recorded, and it is so clear. And all it said was, Dan, and then followed up with 2 whispers, Dan.
Ooh.
I couldn't explain it, especially the little girl, because there was nobody there that was under like 21, 22, 23. So there was no way this could have been a little girl's voice there. It was really, there is some hope, but when you get so much of this, now this is what I want. I seem to see a formula with all the paranormal shows, which really is kind of disheartening. You see, the Hollywood, and get me if I'm wrong, Hollywood likes to make out that we all like to leave as viewers having more questions than answers.
Yeah, they think that.
That
ain't true.
No.
That's not true at all, but they think that.
Yeah.
Because they like we talked about Oak Island. And we said, okay, oh, what's that? Oh, my God. I go, wow, it's going to be something stupid like a button. Oh, we found this button. Big whoop.
Yeah, people have been going there since like the 1430s.
Oh, we found this piece of leather. Big whoop. Big whoop. And then they're showing it like this is some big deal. It's no big deal.
Look, I mean, I love the fact that they're finding shafts and stuff that go into the middle of the man-made swamp. I mean, it's cool and all, but damn, dude, get to something.
You found 1 coin.
Get a LiDAR unit out there and let's get some pinpoints going, man. I mean,
thank you, Mike. It was Rolling Hills. Thank you, Mike. It was Rolling Hills Sanitarium.
Rolling Hills, yeah. So all those ghost things got ruined for me when Grant from the Ghost Hunter show ruined that Halloween special with the coat.
Yeah,
he had a string running down his arm, and he'd pull it, and his coat would. Just ruined it all. I mean, I used to watch the 3-hour Halloween live specials. I mean, I was all into all that.
I think that was a big reason why Jason pulled away from him.
Well, I mean, they were supposed to come back. Now they're running, different shows. It's kind of crazy. They're literally running competing shows against their teams are split in half. I mean, it's like either they are the greatest duo in history to get 2 shows, or they really hate each other now. I'm not sure which.
I think they tolerate one another now.
I mean, that small as the world that is, that really is. You kind of have to.
Yeah.
Before this jumps up too far in the chat and I lose it, I just want to say to Cameron Young, your comment a while ago about the Bigfoot maybe eat their dead, that I didn't bring that up to dismiss it, but that was a perfectly valid argument.
Absolutely.
And a theory that some people use. It's just that we normally don't talk about it because it's kind of creepy. But
it is kind of creepy, but a lot of other apes do it.
Yeah. But
Especially
that is a perfectly valid theory, and I do not want you to leave here thinking that I was making fun of you, because I wasn't.
A lot of large predators do it. I mean, anytime a new bear comes in and finds babies that aren't his, first thing he does is kill them and eat them.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's just it's the rough world that I don't live in.
Yep.
I come back to my nice warm house with a roof on it, out of the rain.
All right.
Those poor guys have to live out there and eat babies.
Go to the fridgy, get me the Swanson turkey dinner out. No.
I need that Diet Peach Snapple.
That's right.
Come on, Joan, where you at? No, we are not sponsored by Diet Peach Snapple.
We actually are.
Are we?
Have
Wow.
you seen the commercial?
No, I haven't.
I think we should run the commercial just because we haven't run it one time.
If it's handy, do it.
Hang on. I bet you it is with one click of a mouse. Of course not.
Yeah, Matthew Johnson also lets him rub his crotch and makes him heal his thumb bone triumpsis or deep bone triumpsis, whatever the hell he has going on.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it is available. Hang on. Watch this. You'll get a kick out of this, and we'll tell one of your stories here about a fist fight that almost occurred. So hang on. Why? You're gonna enjoy this.
Are you Bigfooters thirsty out there? Well, I suggest to get a delicious, refreshing Snapple. Yes, even the most famous Bigfoot rush to the store to get themselves their favorite beverage, a delicious peach Snapple. No need to be when you can just ask your loved one for a delicious beverage.
You got it? No, get me a Snapple.
And money at the store.
The Diet Peach Snapple.
Try delicious peach Snapple.
No, get me a Snapple.
Funny.
Oh boy.
That's right. That is our unofficial sponsor.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, I can see the lawsuits rolling in now, Steve. You're in trouble, buddy.
Oh, we've run that like a dozen times already.
Nobody cares.
With
Nah, nobody.
my favorite part of the whole commercial is when Rick Dyer falls head first. It's funny. It's one of them things, if the camera wasn't on, he probably wouldn't have done that.
Poor Tricky Ricky, used car salesman from Florida.
Getting ready to fist fight.
Bigfoot extraordinaire. Greatest Bigfoot trekker in the world. Finds him behind the Home Depot in Texas. I just lures him in with some rib bones. Looks like Tuttle Senior from the freaking Orange County Choppers. I mean, God in heaven almighty. What the hell is that guy's name?
Morgan Matthews.
Morgan Matthews from Shooting Bigfoot. Threatened within an inch of his life that if he told the truth that Ricky would hunt him down and beat the piss out of him till he was purple. Oh yeah, man. This just could go on and on and on. Creator of Hank the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was the most funniest time that was the funniest summer of Bigfoot for me. Was watching Tricky Ricky ride Hank the Bigfoot around in an enclosed trailer from draft house to draft house, selling tickets to see the Bigfoot dick.
Yep. Tricky Ricky's dicky.
Oh my goodness in heaven.
Well, you know what was really, really funny was I remember the Facebook Find Bigfoot guys.
Oh,
and they were all taking the bus trip to Toronto to go see the opening of the show.
Yeah. If that's not a real Bigfoot, I'll eat my hat.
And they're all like, oh, they're on the bus. They got the videos. They're putting up there. Everybody say Bigfoot. And they're like, oh, Bigfoot. They all jubilantly go into the Hot Docs Film Festival to see Shooting Sasquatch. And then at the end, I had a spy in the midst. who sent me pictures immediately after the show where they were all outside, very disappointed, having like this conversation. And another word was never said about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you guys, you just didn't listen. You don't listen.
Yeah,
I guess
they were full of crap to begin with. Everything was a Bigfoot. Everything was a Bigfoot. I get that there's money in everything being a Bigfoot. I understand that. I mean, real reality doesn't make money.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean,
no.
That's why all these TV shows lead you into that.
Well,
I
beg to, I'll differ on you. I think reality makes money. But I think that they know what people want.
Right. To Hollywood, in their mind.
Oh, we got to keep this going like this.
Yeah.
Well, God forbid we debunk this.
Every single Bigfoot show you've ever seen in your life ends with, is Bigfoot real? Well, we don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. To these people, it is. To these people, it isn't. You make up your own mind. I'm MK Davis.
Yeah.
Just for legal reasons, I am not MK Davis.
But that seems to be the direction of TV. Now, I will give Finding Bigfoot some props. There was times they went out there and said, we don't think so.
Well, I mean,
and that's healthy. That's healthy.
He did that with Todd. I mean, when Bobo, Bobo, I think you saw Bigfoot Bobo. I love Bobo. Don't get me wrong. Bobo's my buddy. At that time, he was, everything's Bigfoot Bobo. He told Todd Standing that he was full of crap.
Yeah.
And that was okay. But
and they did that to Patterson too. Jeff Patterson.
Yeah. You can't go out into those investigations with a crew of 40 and actually think that you're going to do something.
Yeah.
So, because there was never a crew less than, it was huge. It was ridiculous. And then some of the flying in on helicopters, flying in around the area let's just stir up all the shit we can before we go in there and night investigation. Let's scare away every critter, every creature we can, and then we're going to go in there and do a night investigation.
Yeah. But that's TV, and I understand that. I get that. I kind of get all these shows, but I just what I get. See, Finding Bigfoot was not, the first season had issues with their editing. They decided, and I remember this very clearly, the cast was like, listen, this can't happen this way because it's making us look bad. It's killing our credibility. It can't happen. Right. But you look at like some of these paranormal shows, even some of these cryptid shows. I watched them completely destroy the Teddy Roosevelt story.
Right.
Where they added on this guy having a gun battle with the Sasquatch or whatever. That never occurred it's the embellishments is what kills it. And I myself have had a few stories I've been involved with, and luckily they are about anywhere from 85 to 95% accurate, depending on which episode you're looking at. There was one that was completely bass-ackwards, and I wasn't involved in that one.
The monkey in New York State in the tree, the baby Bigfoot in the tree one is so hard to swallow.
Well, don't. I was actually the first one to investigate that. And here's the kick about that one is I spoke to the witness about it, and the movie was legit like 5 years old by the time it got to my hands. He didn't notice it there, didn't observe it there until one day he was looking through old videotapes and his fiance knocked him. And the guy is eccentric as hell. He's from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, so I understand his language.
Right.
And she was like, "What the hell is that, Doug?" He was always very forthcoming about everything, always consistent with everything, came on the air, put his name to it. Hey, this isn't a hoax. Some people over the years have come up with some really cockamamie ideas, but let me go into this. Was that the first idea I thought, okay, well, obviously we need to rule out that this is some kind of monkey. Well, first of all, the area did not allow pets in. The area across the lake was having this music festival. The area that Doug was camped on was an area that was quieter, a lot less traffic, and behind it, and I didn't know this for years, but I knew the apple orchard was there, but there was such an abundance of wild strawberries, wild blueberries, wild raspberries, wild blackberries. It was just like I could get out of the car 10 years later and just start picking off the berry bushes, and these had been left there. There was a fruit farm back there. So I spoke to the property owner. He said, yeah, we didn't allow any pets in whatsoever because our insurance wasn't rated for that. So now we have, well, what is it? It's illegal to own a primate in New York. You got to have a zookeeper's license. And then the final thing was, if that's a monkey in a tree, would you just let your monkey climb in a tree at dusk? And then there was the omission of, and Finding Bigfoot never covered it, but was the big one that was in the background. And the little one appears to come off the big one. And I've watched this thing frame by frame by frame. There's something like 670 frames to this video, of which about 370 are of the tree in itself. The other 400 frames are off the subject matter, either across on the subjects of the film or across the lake at the film festival. And one, probably about 60 frames of the fire, which they were stoking and burning cans in. And literally, I can pinpoint every single area that this thing was in, from where it came off the big one, across, up, over, and down. Now, people were trying to say that, well, perhaps it's a flag on a whip antenna. Well, number one, I had already asked Doug that question, and there was no whip antenna or anything like that. Number two, the wind speed was, I think, negligible at the time that it was happening. So this wouldn't cause this to make all kinds of wild gyrations. So what we're left with is something that is obviously not, and just by watching it, the motions and where it traveled throughout the whole entire film, I knew this wasn't something that was pulled up on a string as a prop and being, because it had crossed. It actually had swung across the tree a couple of times and then down, in and down. So looking at that, we're left with two things. Either this is somehow a monkey that got snuck in there and the owner's an idiot and just let the monkey go in a tree, which one would think there would be some sort of kerfuffle if that had occurred and somebody would have known about that. Or two, it's something that we can't explain. Is it Bigfoot? I don't know. But it's likely it could be.
Could be Zorth.
It could be Zorth. but at least we know what's in that tree is not human.
And this was one that Steve and I disagreed on because I was like ultra skeptical of the whole deal. To me, and my eyes from the video, somebody's got a monkey. They let the monkey go on the tree. The monkey jumps back. Okay, that's it. Now, Steve would tell me, but there's no monkeys allowed there. That don't matter. There's no speeding on the interstate allowed either. But,
murder's illegal in New York too. But
right. The thing is, what it took me was hours and hours of the same thing Steve did in the first place, which is what I should have done in the first place. After you study that video frame by frame, you eventually find out the monkey has no tail. So
the monkey has no snow penis. What?
Well, the other interesting thing is the large one is completely dark.
Yes.
There is it's uniform color, completely much taller. It walks from the right to the left, and then after the jump off, it kind of like turns around and comes back, and then back in towards the tree. Yep. So to me, there would have been some kind of kerfuffle. Hey, get down here, get, and they would have. Yeah. They would have been like, oh, what's going on back there?
Right.
So to me, none of that's going on. So even like the psychology of losing a monkey in a tree, because it was unexpected, because whatever it is keeps on walking and then it has to turn around and come back. So even if it was a human. Bastard. Yeah. Yeah, there would have been some kind of reaction. And just the fact that it's a completely dark object, there's no reaction at all from the people in the foreground. That you would be verbalizing at it, hey, get down here, get over here, or some kind of hand motion. None of that goes on. So that's that's why I don't necessarily believe it's a monkey necessarily.
Well, I went from
Could it be? Yes.
I went from being totally skeptical on that video to now I kind of like it. And I still don't see. I can't see if it's a Bigfoot or not. I don't. But I kind of like that video now. Before it was just no, it's a monkey. No, it's not.
Some tough,
Well,
some
that's
tough.
some
And
of them
I'm
are,
a dick with evidence. You know me. I'm a dick with evidence.
some of them are really tough like that. I mean, you've got the park ranger. I just had him on the tip of my tongue. I'm getting tired here.
Charles Branson?
No. The one out here in Oregon, videotaped over the birthday party, the Treks.
Freeman.
Paul
yeah.
Freeman. In that video, it's such old technology, but the first one that you see that comes, lumbering by the tree, just gives the feeling that that's a big ass creature.
Yeah,
I
agree.
If that's a dude in a suit, that's a big dude in a big suit.
Yeah.
And then as it kind of goes lumbering down and it cuts and he comes back on and he's like, oh, now there's two of them. Oh, and there's babies down there. I never see any of that.
Right.
I've never been able to make out any of the additional creatures that Freeman claims to see with
then
his
you
eyes.
get to the blob squatchiness. Have you ever watched the bonus content from Legend Meets Science, the original documentary which did the Freeman? There is some very blob squatchy, something really appearing to reach over and grab something. What it is, I don't know. But to me, that lends some credence to the whole thing, because here he is tracking something, and the film is a long film.
Yeah.
And that leads to, we did a whole show on the Freeman footage and talked about it and watched the whole entire video and talked about it. And that's one of the things that I liked about it, was that, you can always tell a phony video because you just get 10 seconds of a creature and you're done, or 25 seconds in a creature and you're done. There is no postscript, no epilogue, no prologue, nothing. And that's what you're left with. Not even a description of what they encountered. Just, oh, look, we caught Bigfoot on film. There it is. Right? Whereas at least the Freeman film, you have this documentation going on for a while, and then all of a sudden, there it is. And then you have some blob squatchy stuff, which you're like, I'm not sure. But at least it's giving the taste of rationality. Like the pigeon, the baby swinging in the tree video. I call it the pigeon footage now. But you look at that. At least the guy came forward and gave the entire accounting of that story.
Right.
The interstate. I remember the Interstate Wisconsin video came out. You see this thing moving, and finally, I just laid it to the guy. I said, you know what? He responded back, well, yeah, wow, it was amazing. What can you be? Yeah, it was really amazing. I go, listen, don't waste my time. If you faked it, just let me know. All right, yeah, me and my brother faked it.
Yeah.
We were bored and didn't have much to do. Okay, thank you. Okay, no problem. Done.
It's like the Georgia footage that keeps getting put up. Oh, the Georgia sheriff was driving down the road with somebody in a car, and a Bigfoot crossed in front of him, and that still gets used on show. But yet, if you watch other shows, you've seen where they actually did the investigation and found the high school kids that had the suit, and they were like, "Yeah, that was us. We're sorry. We might have had a couple of beers too many, and we won't do that crap no more."
Boy, we made a big mistake. We ran in front of a police car instead of a regular car.
Exactly. It's like, whoops. It's like us throwing frog eggs as kids. You didn't want to hit any of the highway workers because they knew where you lived. But that's that whole 10-second and done type of thing. Yeah. We had brought up finding Bigfoot earlier, and the one thing that I found, I had met the whole crew several times. I was actually in the tree destruction video episode with Bert Catino up in Fortuna. And we met the crew and everybody, and I met Renee, and Renee is a very, very nice lady. She is a very, very. All of them are very nice. Cliff is an awesome dude. I mean, I would say I'm actually on a personal level with Cliff. Yep. But I sat with Bobo's dad, and we talked for hours. And I won't tell any of those stories, but believe me, if you ever get a chance to talk to Fireball, sit down and have a conversation with him. Because wow, Bobo, that's all I can say. Yeah. But her comments were always, "Oh, I can't see why I can't be a guy in a suit." Well, honey, have you ever put on a suit and shoes that weren't your own, big floppy shoes, and tried to run down a hill without falling on your face and breaking your skull? Because every time she said that, I wanted to see them put her in a suit and have her reproduce it.
Yeah.
Because, there were a lot of the stories that those people up there in the hills, we know that the dynamics of family living, especially in creatures that are kind of endangered, cause them to chase off their young so that they're not banging their sisters. We'll talk about an odd topic of conversation, but that's where we get a lot of these same size sightings of these 6 to 7 foot, a more aggressive type Bigfoot, because they're most likely the rogue males that have been run off by daddy so that they're not trying to breed with the family. Now they've got nobody and they're living on the outskirts and they're looking for their own tribe or harem or, whatever it is to start. Now, do I know how these things breed? No, but I would expect that they're more like they're more bear-like than they would be anything else. A male would claim a territory and would breed with any willing female that came through the territory and kill anyone that wouldn't. I mean, that's just it's the kind of thing that would have to happen for them to be able to proliferate on the same mountaintops over and over again. Do they migrate? I think they have to. I don't believe that they can live in 10 and 20 feet of snow. I think why would they? As the crow flies, they're literally 18 miles from living in no snow, 60-degree weather during the days, 40-degree weather at night, and food all over the place. Why would they stay in 10 and 20 foot deep snow banks? That's just stupid. Follow the food. The deer come down into lower altitudes during the wintertime. Why wouldn't the Sasquatch? So you've got all that movement that goes along with that too. And right where my area of study is now in the Pi Valley is, that's all lower Tahoe Basin, and that's just been historically snowed and iced in over wintertime. Why would any of those animals stay up there? They certainly wouldn't. They would come down and fill in the valleys in between where there isn't any of that stupid snow going on, and they could sleep in comfort. So I think with the fires that we had out here this year, last year and the year before, which really burned out vast quantities of forest structured land, we really only have so many valleys that are going to be able to support these creatures.
Yeah, we might see a dynamic change.
And I think we may end up seeing more of them invading people's backyards, getting caught in dumpsters, getting caught in campgrounds, getting caught, in mining locations. I talk to miners all over California. I don't know if you knew that I'm a prospector, but I do. I talk to gold prospectors all over California, and they all have a story.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I have a friend who does a lot of mining in Maine. And boy, those guys have some stories too.
Yeah, I mean, they're not all Bigfoot stories, but they've all got a story of some kind of creature or another that they can't identify, or something spooky that happened to them one night, or some kind of weird sounds that they don't ever want to hear again. Yep. And that it's you live a lifetime of that, and you end up just getting a feeling for what is real and what isn't real.
Yep.
What is embellished and what isn't embellished. And some people say, I don't know what I saw, but I can tell you it looked like this, and I've never seen another one.
And guys, 2 hours has flown by.
Pow! Just like that, man.
Wow.
We could go
I wasn't even watching the clock.
We could go on for like another 2 hours at the rate we're going here.
Yeah. I love having Reverend Jeff as a guest. Yeah. He's great.
We'll have to come back for part 2 for another night. I'm down.
And so Reverend, what you got going on the podcast? What you got going?
Well, we are finally at the end of the season. We've got a Bigfoot Entertainment Monthly coming up this week with your old pal Wes Losner. We'll post up a Bigfoot movie to watch, and then we'll review it. We watch the really horrible ones, so you don't have to. And then the following Wednesday after that, we'll start with the Superfan shows with Cameron Young. We're going to talk about Alaskan and Canadian Bigfoot. And come the beginning of the year in season 9, we're getting back to stuff that's real. The season of hoaxing is over. I need a little bit of better taste in my mouth. So we're going to try and start an evidence year. And really start to review some of the real evidence that's out there and why that stuff is important to remember, that even casts that we found in the 50s are just as important as stuff that we're finding today.
Just flashing some of the messages.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. And again,
everybody for coming out and listening to me ramble for 2 hours.
Yeah. So, Chris, why don't you do your thing?
Well, I want to thank the Reverend Captain Jeff Kelley for coming on. And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you guys. And if you're watching us for the first time on YouTube, if you hadn't already, please like, subscribe, hit the notification button. You know, it really helps out the channel. Thanks.
And Reverend, one more question. Do you own more than one boat?
More than one boat? No.
Yeah.
I have just one.
Damn. I could have promoted you to Reverend Admiral.
Admiral. Yeah.
See that?
Admiral.
You got to get a second boat, even if it's just like a
little tug, a little rowboat.
couple of
or
boards
something.
with a log, couple of logs. That's all.
Well, you know, I do have a dredge. It floats. Does that count?
Okay, we can call it. So from now on, you're going to be known as the Reverend Admiral.
The Reverend Admiral. There we go. That works for me.
You
Thanks
own a
for having
fleet
me
now.
on, Steve. Really.
Anytime, brother. And
Yeah.
folks, on behalf of everybody here on Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a happy, safe, and healthy week. Remember, mask up. The
And
COVID is still out there.
shoot your potato cannon at grandma from the car.
That's, yeah, amen to that. So, folks, again, have a great week. We'll be here next week, November 29th, with Kentucky Bigfoot researcher Charlie Raymond. So we do have a guest for next week, so we're all good to go.
It's going to be a great show.
Yep, just like this one was. Okay, folks, we'll catch you all next week. Squatch-D TV.
May the Squatch
Sunday
be
nights,
with you.
Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, and keep on squatching.
Hey folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Culls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.